Hello there, my name is Dean from Saving Salvage, and in this video I'm going to be giving you tricks and tips on what to look out for when buying a used car and to make sure it has never looked like this, and if it has, that you're well aware of it. Now in this video, I'm actually going to be concentrating on the purchasing side of the car. So if you found a car that you quite like, you need to now do a load of checks to make sure that car is genuine, to make sure it hasn't been written off in the past, to make sure it's not cut and shut, to make sure it hasn't been stolen in the past, to make sure it's not currently stolen. Now these tips focus mainly on buying from a private buyer, but they do apply to most trade sales as well, unless you're talking about the proper high-end companies, which then you're paying premiums for the car. If you want to save a bit of money, then usually buying private is the way to go. So these tips here will help you in that scenario. So you've decided what make and model of car you're going to buy next, whether it be a 7-seater or a 2-seater. Now my first tip would actually be to compile a list of common problems with that car and make sure that you're happy that if any of those common problems happen to you, you'd be in a position to financially pay for it. Now that leads me on to another tip, which would be if you're someone that worries about cars breaking down or expensive repair bills, I actually recommend that you get a warranty for the car, especially if it's an older car and you're worried about potential repair costs and you just want a bit of peace of mind going forward that you know that your excess is as much as you're going to pay no matter what breaks on the car. So now you've actually found a car that you want to buy and you've phoned up the seller, you've had a chat with them and you've arranged to go and view the car. Now these are the tips that I would do before you even go to that viewing. So my next tip would be before you go and view the car to actually carry out an HPI check and a salvage check report. Now this is like the car's history complete, and it tells you absolutely everything about the car, whether it's currently got finance outstanding on it, whether it's ever been involved in a crash, whether it's ever been sold at a salvage auction, whether it's been written off category S or N or C or D. It's MOT history, telling you all the times whether it's failed or passed MOT, and that will also log the mileage of the car as well, so you can check that it hasn't been clocked. And that will also tell you the engine number, the chassis number, whether it's had any registration plate changes, and the registration date, and whether it was imported, exported, or whether it's currently wanted as stolen. Now that is the most single important thing that you can do before buying a car, and it does cost some money, so I suggest that you only do it once you've really found the car that you want to go and view. The salvage check is important also, as it will tell you whether the car's previously been sold at a salvage auction. Now, not all cars that get damaged are written off. So if they haven't been written off, they haven't been declared as been in an accident. And some cars can have quite a major accident even without being recorded. So a salvage check will tell you whether it's been previously sold at an auction, and it will sometimes show you images of the damage before it was repaired, if it has been repaired. Now, there's no problems with buying a car that's been damaged like I do. That is my job, that is what I do, but the main thing is that you are fully aware of it. Now, my next tip is about going to view the car and making sure that it's not a scam. Scams are getting more and more popular these days, and you need to safeguard yourself from that to make sure that you're not falling into a trap and potentially buying a car that's currently wanted as stolen. Now, these criminals can actually steal cars the same day and try and sell them on, so be very wary if someone's trying to sell a car really quickly, because it can take a while for cars to show up in the police database as stolen. That is the problem I had. They stole it the same day and I bought it. I did all my checks, but unfortunately it still turned out to be stolen. So a tip would be to never meet someone buying a car. Always go to their address and verify that it's their address, and also that means you can verify they own the car, and you can do that using something called a logbook or a V5. I've got an example V5 here, an old one. Now, although this isn't proof of ownership of a car, which it says very clearly on the front here, it is someone who's responsible for taxing and insuring the vehicle. So therefore, whoever's names and details are on the front here are likely to be genuine. So what I would do, and this is a massive piece of advice here, is make sure that the address here is the correct address that you're collecting the car from, and that you've seen of the person's driver license as well, which means they are registered to that address and all the address and names match up. That is the one main way that you can safeguard yourself from potentially buying a stolen car. If those don't match, it would be a red flag for me. Now, there's a few other things you can use this logbook for as well. You can also check that it's a genuine document, and you should have a document reference here. I have blanked it out because obviously it was a live document, but there is a document reference number here, and you can actually input that into some HPI checks and it will come back to tell you whether it is the most current document reference for that car. And also you would use this to put the car in your name. So when you go to the DVLA website, you tell the DVLA that you are the new keeper for the car, and you would use these details. Now, if they weren't genuine or correct, it would throw it back and say they are incorrect. So that is just an easy way to know that it is the latest V5C document for the car as well. Now, there's other things you can do. On the V5, it will have an engine number and a chassis number. Now, this is an easy way to see if your engine is the genuine engine for the car or if it's ever been swapped. It's not an issue that if it's been swapped, if it's been done properly, but as long as you're aware that it's been swapped. So you'll be able to have an engine number here, and that way you can tell if it's the original engine that the car left the manufacturer with or not. And also the chassis number. Now, another problem you do get is people selling clone cars. Now, this is basically a car that's been previously stolen, but it's identical to the car you're trying to buy, and they've just replaced the registration plates to make it look like that car. So a thing you'd want to do is check the chassis numbers. Now, on a lot of cars, the chassis numbers are in more than one place. Now, I'll show a graphic on the screen now, but the majority of cars' chassis numbers is stamped on the inside of the windscreen, usually in the bottom left-hand corner of the windscreen. Now, failing that, on some cars, they could be in different places, so I suggest Googling where the chassis numbers can be found for your particular model of car you're wanting to buy. And also, do not rely on just the windscreen, because they can be altered as well. There is also a stamp on the chassis, which is the more foolproof way of checking the car's chassis number. Again, Google where that could be, somewhere on the chassis. It's usually in the engine bay or maybe in the door shut as well. So once you've confirmed those two numbers are the correct numbers for the car, they match the HPI report and they match the logbook, everything is good, then you become confident that is the genuine car and is not a clone or a damaged car. Now, if you're buying from a trade seller, then the V5 may not actually be in their name. It may actually be in something called trade, and that is basically where the car just sits in limbo without an owner, and the actual previous address on the V5 will be its previous owner. Now, you have to be 100% sure. If you've done all the other checks and everything seems to be okay from the car, you've checked up the dealer, they seem to be reputable, they've got a good reputation, then you can be at good peace of mind that the car is genuine. But if maybe they're a new company just starting out and you're not 100% sure, then I still wouldn't trust it. My next tip is something that you may have already picked up in the sales process, and that is your gut feeling with the seller. Now, if they're happy for you to properly view the car, go around it with a fine-tooth comb, even invite someone who knows a bit more about you than the car to look over it to make sure it's mechanically sound. If they're happy, they're not trying to rush you, they're not trying to accept cash only. There's just loads of little things that can mean red flags, and if they don't do any of that, then your gut feeling will tell you that they are a genuine buyer as well. My next tip is, before you find a car that you want to buy, you do an insurance quote just to make sure that car is affordable on insurance. Now, my tip here would be to do a quote around about 2 weeks in advance. When they always ask you that important question at the end, when are you expecting your insurance to start? Always put at least 2 weeks in advance, because most sites will charge you a premium for wanting the insurance sooner, especially if it's either the day or the next day, they will charge a premium for that. So always try and do your insurance quotes a couple of weeks in advance. And my last tip is to enjoy the car. Now you've done all your checks, you can be 100% satisfied that the car you're buying is straight, genuine, and if it's not, you know about it. So those are my tips for buying a used car. Now, if you have any additional tips, please do write them in the comment section below. It'd be interesting to see what you guys think. Additionally, please do like this video and subscribe to Autodoc's YouTube channel. A big thanks to Autodoc for today's video, and I'll see you soon.